Hey up everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well and you're looking after yourself. Tonight's video is going to be my top 5 least favourite grand finals. So last night I did my top 5 favourite grand finals. So I'm going to go through 1 through to 5 of my least favourite grand finals coming up very shortly. But before I do that, I'm going to give a couple of shout outs. So I'm just going to get my list here and I'm going to go through them. So the first shout out goes to National Sports Loaded. If you love loaded sports, go subscribe to National Sports Loaded. Second one, NRL Clips. Do you love NRL? Do you love clips? Go subscribe to NRL Clips. The third one, Nick from Australia. Do you love the NRL? Do you love Australia? Do you love Lismore? Then you'll love Nick from Australia. And if you subscribe now, for a premium service of only £5.99, you can get yourself a canvas bag, a water bottle, a hat and a t-shirt. The next one, NRL Vid 090. If you love your vids and you love your NRL, subscribe to NRL Vids. Fifth one, CJ Moxley. If you love South, if you love Rugby League, go subscribe to CJ Moxley. Proudly sponsored by the Cauliflower Hotel in Redfern. The Bundy Chick 82, sponsored by Bundaberg Rum. Manly Fan, that's his actual username, Manly Fan. Subscribe to him. The next one, Para Pineapple. Do you love pineapples? Do you love Parramatta? Go subscribe to Para Pineapple. Warriors NRL Fanatics. If you love New Zealand, if you love the Warriors, go subscribe to Warriors NRL Fanatics. The next one, CT Dingo. If you love Australia and you love dingoes, go subscribe to CT Dingo. And the last one, the Setter King. If you subscribe to him today, you get a 10% discount for Charcoal Kingdom Rockdale. That's Charcoal Kingdom Rockdale, Prince's Motorway, Rockdale, Sydney. So, that's me shout outs. If you want a shout out in the future, just let me know and I'll do one for you. So getting into the video, I'm going to go through my least favourite grand finals, going from the 5th least favourite up to the most hated grand final. So coming in at number 5, I've chosen Brisbane versus Canterbury, 1998. So Brisbane won this match 38 points to 12 at the Sydney Football Stadium. It was the last grand final to be played there. It was very, very annoying to watch this match because the week before, Parramatta, as I said in some other videos, they were up 18-2. Canterbury had won 3 sudden death matches before that. They beat us to meet the grand final against Brisbane, and they were basically the sacrificial lamb. It was a very one-sided grand final, made worse by the fact that Parramatta weren't there. I think Parramatta would have been a better opponent. We beat Brisbane in the second week of the finals up in Brisbane, so I'm not saying that we would have won the grand final, but we certainly would have been a better opponent than Canterbury were. My 4th least favourite grand final was Melbourne v Manly in 2007. This game finished 34 points to 8. This was a very one-sided grand final. It was during a time when Melbourne were well over the salary cap, cheating and rotting the salary cap. We didn't know that at the time, but I remember the match very well. Manly were never really in it. Brett Stewart got knocked cold. I think he was catching a bomb and he got knocked clean out by Mick Crocker, I think it was, or Dallas Johnson. And I remember I was watching this match at the Blacktown RSL, and as soon as the final whistle went, we got shot out. We didn't even get to watch the presentation or the premiership being handed to Melbourne or now. We all got told to leave because they were closing early because of the public holiday the next day, and all the other pubs were shut, so you couldn't even have a drink after the match. So I always remember it for that. The 3rd least favourite grand final, Brisbane v Melbourne 2006. Brisbane won this match 15 points to 8. It was the first grand final in the competition's history where there wasn't a Sydney team involved. So it was 2 interstate teams, 2 non-Sydney teams. I remember the week leading into this grand final, I was just so depressed. I was really down the dumps. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to get mortal. I'm going to watch the game because it's tradition. I've watched the NRL Grand Final, New South Wales Rugby League Grand Final since 1992, but I'm just going to get totally ruled off because I got the public holiday the next day. I'm not in a good mood. So I remember watching the match and I just supped a bottle of wild turkey. I drank the whole bottle. It was a very depressing time. I had no team to go for. Generally, there's a team that you can side which one way or the other, but on this occasion there was no one to go for. So very depressing. Brisbane won. Wasn't exactly the greatest grand final, but that's mainly the reason why I disliked it. My second least favourite grand final is Brisbane v Eastern Suburbs in 2000. So this was the second grand final to be played at the Olympic Stadium, and Brisbane and Eastern Suburbs played, I think, about a month earlier because they had the Olympics on in that particular year. And I remember watching the game and Eastern Suburbs were just never really in it. Have you ever watched those games where you just kind of watch and you go, this team's never going to win? You just know it in your bones that they're not gonna do now. And Brisbane were on top at half time. They were kind of in cruise control. I don't think Brisbane played a really good game that day. They were kind of going through the motions. They were in the break 10-2 at half time. Come out in the second half, they only scored the one try. Eastern Suburbs scored a try with 10 minutes remaining through Craig Fitzgibbon, but even then, I just never got the feeling that East were going to win the match, and Brisbane were just in control from the get-go, and yeah, they were just kind of going through the motions. It was a very boring grand final, so that gets me second least favourite grand final, and my most hated grand final in the NRL era. So the one that I disliked the most is 2017, Melbourne v North Queensland. So Melbourne were runaway minor premiers that year. They had one of the most dominant years in modern NRL history. And they played against North Queensland, who made the finals by default because of St George not winning their match against Canterbury. Fuck you, St George. And North Queensland played 3 sudden death matches to meet the grand final. They were missing Jonathan Thurston and Matt Scott and some of their other players. Admittedly, they weren't in the final series to begin with, but by the time that North Queensland got to that grand final, the club was tired, bruised, broken. They were playing against a Melbourne side that were that dominant. They had the week off, so they didn't have to play the second week. They only played the first week, the preliminary final. And in the grand final, I think it was after about 10-15 minutes, Sean Fenson got stretchered off. Josh Adokar scored that controversial try where the referee got on the road. He would have been tackled, but he ran away and scored, and they gave it. And North Queensland were down to 16 men for pretty much the entire match. They were never really in it. I think it was 18 out before they got a try, and then Melbourne ended up powering away, winning 34 points to 8, and probably the most one-sided grand final I've ever watched in my life. I think the week prior when North Queensland beat Eastern Suburbs, I think if Eastern Suburbs would have beat North Queensland and made the grand final, I think it would have been a much closer game, would have been a much more contested game. I'm not saying that East would have won that year, because I think no one was stopping Melbourne that year, but it would have been at least a bit more entertaining for the neutrals. Obviously, another thing that I dislike about it is the fact that there was no Sydney club in there, and also the pre-game entertainment was one of the worst pre-game entertainments in the modern history of the game. In the week leading up to the match, Macklemore was the person that was headlining, and he declared that he was going to make the grand final a political statement. So he was going to go on about gay marriage and all this shite. People go to the grand finals, people go to sport to get away from politics and all the other shite that's going on. People just want to zone out and watch sport. They don't want politics and things shoehorned in the sport and things shoved down their throats. So I remember that, watching the pre-game entertainment, people were booing Macklemore, and obviously there was people out there praising him and saying, oh, what a brave young man and all that keeper, but I wasn't buying it. So that's me top 5 least favourite NRL Grand Finals in the NRL era, 1998 to 2019. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. If you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you've got a spare moment, go over to Rugby League History. That's my Facebook page. I put a link in the description below. And also go check out the Instagram page as well. I put a link next to that. But as always, I'll catch you all later. Look after yourselves, everyone. Ta-ra.